Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Nilton Serva and Richie Serna. We're going to do our interview now for research that I'm doing, and it's based off the Latinx wide financing options haven't been used or heard of from the Latinx entrepreneurs that are getting into starting a company. I have a couple of research questions that I'll be asking Richie today, and yeah, you're going to check it out. So we'll start off with the first question is, what's your name and where are you from?
My name is Richie Serna. I am originally from Orange County, California, Santa Ana in particular. Represent.
Okay, next question. What's the name of your startup and what does it do?
So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Finix Payments, and we're a global disbursements platform that allows you to send money anywhere to anyone using your own debit card.
Wow, that's interesting. And the third question is, what is it that you do for your startup?
Yeah, so I'm the CEO. I think when you're working with any sort of startup, very early on, you're doing a little bit of everything. From a day-to-day perspective, not only is it the fundraising component, but really product vision, product management, the business development role, as well as QA. A lot of account management, knowing your customers, really understanding what they want, and how you can really execute on that vision. So I think, I used to work in a lot of different roles from management consulting to finance, but as a startup, co-founder and anybody who's really on the founding team, it's really sort of being a utility player that can get involved with anything, even down to customer service. You have to understand every single part of your business to really make it successful.
Yeah, starting a company is not easy, you guys. Okay, fourth question is, how big is your startup and do you have a team? And you can, name your team or tell about like how many are on the team.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are now a team of 6. All of us except for one are engineers. Actually myself, or my younger brother is another member of the team. We actually have probably one of the biggest Latino teams out in the space right now. Of our founding team, there's 4 of us now. So it's myself, my younger brother, we're both Mexican. Our head front-end engineer is Puerto Rican descent, and then our head of finance is Dominican from New York.
Dominicano. Oh man, Dominican people are so funny.
They love the reggaeton.
Yeah,
I have to make them shut it up all the time. I'm like, dude, you can't be playing that.
All right, let's go on to the 5th question. How long did it take you to plan and create your startup?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you'll sort of realize when you're starting a company is no matter what your original idea is, it's probably not what it's going to be when you actually turn it into something. Yeah. I think a lot of the times is you kind of got to take that leap of faith into something, and 2-3 months later you'll totally pivot once you really start to understand that market. I've been in the payment space now for a little bit over 4 years. Worked as an engineer at a company called Balance Payments that was funded by Andreessen Horowitz and a lot of the other major sort of investors out in the Valley. That's sort of where I cut my teeth in the space, and have now been working on Finix Payments for about 1 year and 8 months now. It blows by very quickly, so it's kind of been a flash for us.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the next question. So this might be a little different for you. So I put, how long has your startup been active since you've launched? Have you guys already launched it yet?
Yep.
Okay, how long has it been active since then?
So we took our first version of our product live back last March, so a little bit over 1 year now. Ended up obviously sort of making some sort of pivots and changes in terms of what we were working on. And so the next iteration of our product that we're doing is actually coming live in the next month or 2.
Oh yeah, you guys better watch out for that. So let's go on to the next question. How did you finance your startup in its early stages, and how do you finance it currently?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for anybody sort of starting a new business, the financing question is one of the hardest parts. It kind of brings me back to one of my good friends from college who's raised a considerable amount of money for his media tech company. And we were having this conversation, and he's like, it's not hard to raise money. And I was like, it's not hard if your family and friends are rich and can put in $200,000-$300,000. But I think for a lot of people from our community and our background, when you talk about a friends and family round, my friends and family aren't necessarily wealthy.
Low income.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's like one of the things that has prevented a lot of minorities of color to really break into the startup scene. We were really lucky in that we had worked in the payment space for a number of years at our previous company, ended up exiting back in 2015, and so after that a lot of people who were in the payment space really wanted us to basically build what we had built before. So we talked to a few providers out in the space and told them that we could build them a very similar sort of payments infrastructure software for them. And they gave us $200,000 to build that for them as sort of a setup fee. So that's kind of how we, sort of inadvertently bootstrapped our company. And I think, if it's not something that's in the consumer place or anything like that, where you don't necessarily need the funding, if you can get somebody who can pay for it, that's a really creative way. Not everybody has that sort of opportunity. So that's kind of what got our business going from the beginning. Since then, we've been able to sort of, generate enough revenue to keep us going, alive and kicking. But we're now entering into the fundraising space ourselves and actually doing our seed round right now to really accelerate that growth.
Okay, let's go on to the next question, which, did you know of any other ways to finance it in its early stages? Or was it just, did you guys only have like that set that what you guys knew?
Yeah, I mean, aside from heart and hustle, like there's, did you know about
credit
cards? I mean, to be honest, my cards are probably pretty close to maxed out right now. My mom wouldn't love to hear that, but sometimes you got to do that to kind of get through those tough cases. I mean, we've explored a few other options. I mean, there's obviously sorts of small business loans, things like that. But for a tech startup where you're spending a lot of considerable time investing up front for sort of that payoff later, it's very difficult to find someone that can fund it that way. So yeah, I mean, are there all that many sort of creative financing options? Unfortunately not. There's a lot of capital that's out here. There's some discussions as to whether or not there's sort of a contraction on that, and there's not as much fundraising going around. It's not like 2 years ago when you could get $1 million for an app that just sent the words "yo" to somebody else in like 2 or 3 steps, right? But I think if you could kind of, the biggest thing is really working your network.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
I think that's there's now sort of more micro funds that are coming out, alternative investment sort of vehicles, but I think a lot of it's going to come down to the networks and getting in front of the right people to really get you up and running.
And that kind of answers my next question as if I was asking, do you know of any other ways now?
Right now, I think a lot of it has been through institutional investors, kind of going the more traditional VC route. It's not something that we were ideally looking to go towards because you introduce a whole host of other sort of issues from, VCs are looking for their $1 billion exits, right? Because of that, a lot of times they're pushing you to accelerate growth in ways that you're not really necessarily comfortable with, and really forcing you to run your business in a way that you might not necessarily think is the best way. Huh? Yeah, I mean, for them, they want, what makes their business is those $1 billion exits. So if you can have an exit that, for you and your family might be something that's completely life-changing, but for them, it's not necessarily the returns that they're looking for.
Okay.
I mean, we've looked into sort of alternatives, but there hasn't been that many. I mean, I think what you see time and time again from a lot of the founders that have made it past, some of those growth spurts is growing pains is really, again, that sort of friends and family network that can get them, to sort of bridge that seed round as well.
Okay, yeah. Let's go on to this next question. Are there any new or creative ways for financing a startup that you've done already? I think you mentioned it about you said it was a little creative how you guys did it.
Yeah, so we basically got setup fees. I think especially when you're working with enterprise level clients, customers who need an entire platform to build that's very sort of tailored to what their requirements are, what their needs are. You can get some people to sort of pay upfront fees if you can develop it that way. I think if you can look at strategic partners, people in your specific space that are, for instance, as we're in the payment space, if you can find someone like a Visa or a MasterCard who sees what you're doing and it kind of helps with their overall broader strategy, sort of talking to them about what sort of partnership opportunities there might be that you can really accelerate their strategic initiatives and their focus, and turn that into maybe a check that can get you guys up and running. Okay. There's always also the incubators that are out there.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of incubators that are out there. I mean, you can find an incubator pretty much for anything these days.
It's just out there now.
Yeah, I mean, I was at an event yesterday or a few days ago, where someone ran an incubator for startups that were focused on unions and basically other sort of products that can help unions better organize and be more effective. So I mean, they're popping up everywhere, And
I know. I just seen a couple of incubators today at the Startup Grind Global Conference. People talking about it, telling me about it. And I was like, wow, it's for everything, like you said, they were just telling me this and this, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of them now. So let's go on to the next question. About how much money did you need to launch your startup?
Well, I can just tell you from our customer, the first customer they had, it was a $200,000 check, so that's kind of what got us up and running. I mean, I think it really depends on what type of software play you guys are going for, right? If you're trying to build a very robust enterprise solution in the payment space, it's just very technical. At our previous company that we worked at, where we built something in the very similar space, it took us 4 years to develop, and about we raised $4 million then. Luckily, we sort of got past all those mistakes that we made. Yeah. That was sort of on our previous company's dime, and so we kind of understood what was necessary and could avoid a lot of those sort of pitfalls. So we were able to do it with that. I mean, I think if you can hire the right team, there's other ways that you can also build out your company, and a lot of that has to do with being able to give out equity to individuals to help you build out that business
for the future. Yeah. Let's see. I think that one ties in with the next one. Oh, about how much capital do you currently need to be sustainable?
For ourselves as a business?
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of goes into what your burn rate is. I mean, I think a lot of the times you have to look at what what you're burning, what kind of revenue that you have coming into your business. Yeah, exactly, right? So for any startup, there's always the mix of you can keep as much equity as you want, but then you're going to have to pay people more in terms of their general salaries, right? So it's kind of figuring out what those levers are.
Okay.
In my view, I try not to be greedy with the equity that we have. I believe in the business and the exit opportunity that we have, but to really build something that's sustainable and long term, I know that the team has to be bought into it, not only from a vision perspective, but also from the economic perspective of having an invested interest in seeing that their equity has a real time, real long term value.
Okay, I see. So you've already given out equity to your team already?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So let's see. Let's go on to the next one. Are there any barriers that you think you have that's holding you back from seeking any other ways of financing?
I mean, I think when you think about why people invest in companies, it's one, there's always the idea, it's the team, and then the previous track record, right?
Yeah, sure.
There's always something about sort of your pedigree that you bring to the table. I think we've gotten through a lot of those sort of check marks just from having worked at Balance in a company that was very well regarded in the payment space and just in fintech in general. Excuse me. I think the big piece that people always look for is if you had a previous exit, right? Like people always want sort of that check the box, right? So even if you haven't had a $1 billion exit, if you sold your company to someone and they've seen that you have that track record of really building out that business, that's a big step up for someone, or leg up for someone. I haven't had that, but that's hopefully what we'll be able to accomplish with Finix today.
Let's go on to the second and last. Would you like to know any other ways to finance your startup? Like if there's some new thing out there, would you want to know it, or would you just kind of we're good right now as what we're doing?
I mean, we're always open to new financing options. I think right now we've gotten a tremendous amount of traction from institutional investors and even some strategic investors. I think especially sort of with the not as a non-traditional, but the angel route, those are tougher to sort of find. But yeah, I mean, I'm always open to new sort of fundraising options as long as they really work for the long-term piece of the business. If it's something that is a short-term sort of stopgap that can get us a few months, but in the end is going to be something that really weighs us down. That's not something that
something for the long-term run instead of the short-term.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we realized back at Balanced was we were so fixated on our next fundraising round and what was necessary for us to raise the next big round from the next top VC, and that was always what can we do to get into TechCrunch? What's going to be the next hotness that everyone wants to write about? But that wasn't necessarily core to building a strong business with strong economic fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
And so that really distracted us, and that's something that we learned from our first time that we're really focusing this time around is how can we build a strong business not only from a VC perspective that keeps them interested, but also has a long-term exit strategy as well.
So you were before it was more focused on how to get it known out there, pretty much, right? Like a little bit of being heard on these other platforms and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of Silicon Valley that's very much sort of this echo room. It's a very small world, so
yeah.
I mean, what we always joke around is you're trying to create this sense of FOMO, right? Like it's the fear of missing out, and so it's the same thing with VCs. It's the same thing with any sort of strategics. You're talking to them about what your product is doing, and you don't want to be the one who didn't get in on the next Stripe, the next big thing, right? And so there is some parts of the smoke and mirrors of building that up because you have to sell them on that vision, and so part of that is the marketing. It's the PR that goes into that. But you're right? But if a perfect example is back when we were at Balance. that was the hotness of Bitcoin. Everyone was
Oh,
like,
man.
Bitcoin. And so we were over here, trying to build this Bitcoin wallet that, you could, now pay for your products with Bitcoin. And it went nowhere. And we distracted our entire engineering resources for this. And in reality, it didn't pay off. Did we get a few TechCrunch articles? Sure. Can you share that with your mom and say, hey, Mom, look, I'm in TechCrunch. But does that really, what's going to pay the bills at the end of the day, is that really what's core to what your focus is? No. And so I think that's one of the pieces that when you're working in, with venture capitalists, that's what they're looking for a lot of times, but you have to be able to, stay true to what your guys' real vision is.
Yeah, because what you were building before, it sounded great to hear about it and, be all over, but when reality it comes down to the work and you have to do it, it's like, how do we do this? And I heard that before, exactly how you described it, just a little differently. Startups have said, like, we made our ideas sound so unrealistic that it really was.
Yeah.
We could not put in the work, and people were counting on us, and we could not come up with it, and it just looked even worse because now that they were out there, and that they can't, they can't put,
can't execute on it.
Can't execute on it.
Absolutely.
It looked like a bigger fail for not, like, trying to sell something that wasn't even gonna be.
Yeah, there's always, there's a you want to be able to sell this big vision, but you want to be able to manage expectations, right? If you're going to be the next, big thing, you better be able to hope that you can execute on that, right? And there's always a limit of, like, pushing yourself further than you really, know, and that's kind of what gets you to that next point. But if you are a fraud, people are going to find out.
Yeah, and something
so it's a balancing act, right? You have to be confident and go out there and let people know. In VC, right, it's the same thing, right? Are you taking the truth and sort of stretching it in terms of what you think you can do? Mm-hmm. For sure, but that's what pushes people to sort of that greatness. And you have to have that confidence, you have to have that conviction, so they believe in you and believe in your ideas, right? Because the big ideas are the ones that people say are impossible, that no one wants to do, right? Think about something like Airbnb. People laughed at them. People said they were crazy.
Yeah.
Like, who's going to want to, like, rent out their apartments to other people to let them stay there and sleep there? No one's going to want to do that. They thought they were crazy, right? And look what they're doing now, right? They're disrupting the whole hotel industry, right? So you have to be a little bit crazy, but you have to know what's within your realm of reality.
That's true. Airbnb, Uber, they're all disrupting.
Yeah.
They're big disruptors.
Absolutely.
All right, let's come up to the last question. So this is something, it's more of a, not really a question toward the financing, but is any recommendations that you would like to make for any young Latinx entering the startup world?
Yeah, I think the big thing is you got to take the leap of faith. There's a lot of people who are going to tell you time and time again that you're not going to be able to do something that. When I first came out here, I was actually in management consulting for about the first 2 years out of college. Told my buddy I had these a few startup ideas that I wanted to work on, and he was like, he said the following thing. He said, "It's not going to go anywhere. Don't do it." He's like, because your parents aren't rich, you haven't had a successful exit, and you're not an engineer. Why would anybody work with you? Why would anybody give you money? And so I came out to San Francisco, learned how to program, and 4 years later, was there moments of doubt? Were there moments of am I going to be able to pull this off? Absolutely, but you have to power through that, right? And I think the same thing goes with anybody who's an engineer who has an idea. Is it going to be easy to do? No. Is it comfortable in your six-figure engineering job with all the perks that you get from being at a startup that's invested in by Andreessen Horowitz, and they pay for your lunches, your dinners, and you have this amazing cushy life? Sure, it's easy to live there, and you'll become comfortable, right? But you have to push yourself past that, and just and I think that's the toughest part, is just taking that step into the unknown and being like, okay, today we start.
A lot of entrepreneurs that are coming in, they just bootstrap. Pretty much, right? Is that how you guys came into?
Yeah, absolutely. That's basically what we did with our first customer was bootstrap that. Our vision, kind of talking about how we wanted to build a business with strong fundamentals, was also so that when we did go to the fundraising, route, we would be able to raise at favorable terms for ourselves, where we weren't giving up, huge chunks of the company right away, so that we can bring money in. We wanted to show that we had a business model. We not only do we have a prototype, but we had customers. We had interest from some of the top banks in the space and are powering some of the biggest providers out there. So with that, in mind and trying to really optimize for that, it really allows you to have more control when you do go to those VCs and, they want to sort of short sell you and, just say, hey, this isn't what you're worth, and you can stand there and be like, no, this is what we're worth, right? Like, it's not just you. There's a lot of other people who are trying to get involved too. So
yeah, a lot of people out there, the startups. There's a bunch of them popping up now, especially out here in the Silicon Valley, Bay Area. You know, a lot of people, we have like all these events and meetups. It's just people getting inspired or trying to start a startup or already in a startup. You know, and that's the beauty of it though. Once we all like collab and, you know, do all these great things, usually something great comes out of it too. So out of all these questions, the main thing is, like he says, taking a leap of faith, because regardless of the financing and whatnot, if it's personal funds, you know, a credit card, it doesn't matter. You know, just focus on the dream, because teamwork makes the dream work. There you go. But yeah, that's just a little thing into the research I'm doing. So we'll keep going on, and hopefully we get down to find out what is the core of the financing for Latinx entrepreneurs and how we can help, and let's see what happens. So thank you, Richie, for the interview.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.